Hey everyone, and welcome back to Storytime. Peter liked the playground more than anywhere else in the world, but he never liked going there when it was busy. When the swings were empty and the climbing frames were quiet, he felt comfortable. When other children ran and laughed together, Peter stayed near the edge, kicking the ground and pretending he had something important to think about. It was not that Peter didn't want friends. He did. He just never knew what to say first. Every time he thought about walking over to someone, his mind filled with questions. What if they didn't want to play? What if he said the wrong thing? What if they already had enough friends? So Peter did what he always did. He waited, he watched, and he told himself that maybe tomorrow would be easier. One afternoon, Peter sat on the end of the bench near the playground fence, drawing lines in the dirt with the toe of his shoe. The other children were laughing near the climbing frame, and Peter told himself he was fine on his own, but deep down, he wished someone would come and sit beside him. The same afternoon, someone Peter had never seen before walked through the gate. The boy looked around slowly, holding the straps of his backpack, as if he was not sure where to go. He stood for a moment watching the other children play, then walked over to the bench and sat at the other end. Peter noticed him right away. He could tell the boy felt the same way he did. The boy looked at the ground, then at the swings, then back at the ground. For a long time, neither of them said anything. The playground noise filled the air, but the space between them felt quiet. Peter thought about standing up and walking away, the way he usually did when things felt awkward, but this time he stayed. After a while, the new boy spoke first. He said that he had just moved to the area and didn't know anyone yet. His voice sounded unsure, as if he expected no answer. Peter looked at him, surprised. Then Peter said that he didn't really know anyone either, even though he had lived there for a long time. The new boy smiled a little, and the quiet between them didn't feel so heavy anymore. The new boy asked Peter what he liked to do at the playground. Peter shrugged at first because he wasn't used to anyone asking him. Then he said he liked climbing frames, but he usually waited until nobody else was around. The boy laughed softly and said he'd like the climbing frame too, but he didn't like using it alone. They both looked at the tall metal bars at the same time. Other children were running around, shouting and racing to the top. Peter felt the usual feeling in his stomach, the one that told him to stay where he was. But the new boy stood up and said they could just try it for a minute. He said they didn't have to be the fastest, and they didn't have to go all the way to the top. Peter hesitated, then stood up too. They walked over together, slowly at first, like they weren't sure their legs would listen. When they reached the climbing frame, Peter grabbed the first bar and pulled himself up. The new boy climbed beside him. They didn't say much, but they didn't need to. They were playing, and for the first time in a long time, Peter wasn't thinking about what could go wrong. After a while, more children came over to the climbing frame. The space grew crowded, and the noise grew louder. Someone bumped into Peter as they climbed past, and he lost his grip and dropped down to the ground. His face got hot, and the old feeling came back, the feeling that told him he didn't belong there. He stepped away from the climbing frame and walked back toward the bench, staring at the ground. For a moment, he thought the new boy would stay with the others. That was what usually happened. People found someone more fun to play with, and Peter ended up all alone again. But after a few seconds, he heard footsteps behind him. The new boy sat down beside him and said the climbing frame was getting too crowded anyway. Peter looked up, surprised again. The boy said they could try the swings instead, because swings were better when there weren't too many people around. Peter felt the tight feeling in his chest loosen just a little bit. They ran to the swings and sat down side by side. At first, they only pushed themselves back and forth, listening to the chains creak softly. Then the new boy started talking about the place he used to live. He said the playground there had a slide that twisted like a spiral, and he used to race his friends to the top. Peter told him that he had never raced anyone on the climbing frame, but he always imagined what it would be like. They talked about small things at first: favourite games, favourite snacks, the best way to swing as high as possible without jumping off. The more they talked, the less Peter worried about saying the wrong thing. He realized that he didn't need the perfect words. He only needed to keep talking. The new boy laughed at one of Peter's jokes, and Peter laughed too, surprised at himself. Soon the playground didn't feel so big anymore. It didn't feel like a place full of strangers. It felt like a place where something new had started. The new boy asked if Peter wanted to play a game where they pretended the climbing frame was a ship sailing across the ocean. Peter said yes before he even had time to think about it. They ran back together, and this time the noise didn't bother him as much. They climbed, jumped, and pretended the ground was water they couldn't touch. Other children noticed them laughing and asked if they could play too. Peter froze for a moment, unsure what to say. Then the new boy said the more people they had, the bigger the ship could be. Peter nodded, and the game kept going. For the first time, Peter wasn't standing at the edge. He was right in the middle of the game. When the sun started to go down, the playground slowly grew quiet again. One by one, children went home until only Peter and the new boy were left near the gate. They stood there for a moment, not sure what to say next. Then the boy said he would come back tomorrow. He asked Peter if he would be there too. Peter thought about all the days he had come to the playground and left without talking to anyone. He thought about the bench, the dirt, and the long, quiet afternoons. Then he smiled and said yes, he would be there. The boys waved goodbye and went their separate ways, knowing that they'd just made a new friend. That night, Peter sat by his window the same way he always did, looking out at the dark sky. Everything looked the same as before, but it didn't feel the same. He realized that making a friend hadn't happened all at once. It started with sitting on the same bench, then one question, then one game, then one laugh. Peter understood that tomorrow might still feel a little bit awkward. He might still wonder what to say sometimes, but now he knew something he hadn't known before. He knew that sometimes all it takes to make a friend is staying where you are, saying one small thing and giving someone else the chance to sit beside you. And when Peter went to bed that night, he wasn't wondering if tomorrow would be easier. He was looking forward to it. We hope that you find it easy to make new friends and that you have an amazing day and rest of the week. See you again next time.